Okay, good morning, afternoon, depends on where you're watching the latest Super Yacht Group one-to-one digital dialogues. My name is Martin Redmayne, and welcome. We've had a short break over the summer while everyone was having some fun out on the water or doing their sort of usual annual break. So we're back now in September, and we'll have a whole series of programs leading up to the November dates of our new version of the Super Yacht Forum, which will be announced in the next couple of days. I'm joined today by Richard Klabbers, CEO of Sevenstar DYT. Morning, Richard. How are you?
Good morning, Martin. Yes, I'm fine. Thank you very much.
Good. What I'm going to talk about today is the topics that are very dear to Richard's heart, linking to migration, exploration, and vessel migration in terms of getting around the world on this wonderful planet. As we all know, we live on a planet with 71% of water, yet the yacht market typically spends most of its time about 2% of the world's oceans. So we've got to change that. It doesn't make sense to me, and I think it's something that Richard's very keen to do as well. So I think the most important thing to do is Richard, how's life treating you at the moment?
Actually quite good. We have a story in Holland here where we deal with COVID maybe in a little Dutch way. So we're in the office. We take our precautions. So we have a kind of a normal life except public transport. Business is also continuing, which is kind of unexpected, a little bit unexpected. We thought it would get a big hit immediately spring, which it didn't. We continue doing our normal routes and normal trades with big hiccups getting our people in at different locations for the loading and discharging operations. But otherwise, yeah, I don't think we can complain. It was kind of a strange ride until midsummer, let's say. Now we are on the forefront of autumn, and now it's a different story. It's going to be a challenge to see how it all turns out.
Yeah, so what are the key challenges now in terms of the migration and sort of movement of vessels? It's just, we're talking about it's primarily understanding what's going to happen or what access people have to certain cruising grounds.
Yeah, main topic for us at the moment is keeping informing the customers about what is possible.
Yeah,
all normal things are possible for us. Cargo-wise, vessels can go anywhere. Operations can be done. It's no issue. But where can you get? Where can you fly to? What are the problems on immigration, etc., etc. So that's our main topic at the moment, informing customers what is still possible, and also finding out-of-the-box solutions, sometimes getting people to destinations with their crew on board, bringing the crew on our vessel, or finding other ways via our agencies around the world to fly them in on private jets. We're looking for all sorts of options all the time.
Good. No, I think that's really the challenge of the market. We have to be quite out of the box and quite creative. And I think as an industry, we've been quite sort of reactionary to this whole process. So it seems, as you say, if the yachts are willing to play the game or play ball with you, they suddenly will actually sort of move around a bit more freely. But it's that education and information that's the key part of it, which I think we've all got to play that role on that.
Yeah, and I think an important thing is that most yacht owners are not under 40. And so they consider it a risk to go somewhere. And it's not that they don't want to go. Every yacht owner wants to go somewhere. They want to go for either their private use, or they want to go for a charter, or everybody wants to use their boat. Everybody is waiting for the moment to go. So although people are a little bit laid back at the moment and wait and see, I think we're going to get probably a crazy October, November, where people say last minute, Jesus, we got to go. We cannot wait. We're able to fly. Let's do it.
Yeah, I agree with you. I agree. In terms of migration patterns in the last few years, what are you seeing happen?
We see a strong inter-America trade, U.S. East West Coast. Canada, Vancouver area. We see that increasing, which includes sport fishing in Golfito and in West Coast Mexico.
Yeah.
We see an normal on the Caribbean and Mediterranean, although Eastern Mediterranean seems to be a little bit more interesting at the moment than other years.
Yes.
But that could be the COVID situation where people have difficulties to move. And we see definitely an increase on activity on Southeast Asia.
Yeah.
Little bit more marinas. Yachts are getting bigger, and it opening up of new areas there is definitely happening. It's maybe not at the pace we want to see it, but I'm now convinced on the super yacht side that Southeast Asia is established and will keep on growing from here on, because there is many places to go undiscovered.
It's actually almost unlimited cruising when you think about it. It's just incredible potential. So, yeah, I think that's a key part of the future model, is to try and encourage much more of that activity to go east, because it broadens the horizon massively. So, listen, one of the things we try and do with a one-to-one dialogue, Richard, is to sort of dig into your mind and say, okay, what are the things you want to change, what frustrates you, and what do you think of the future? So, let's start off with from an industry point of view, from as a CEO of Sevenstar DYT, what does frustrate you about this industry?
Well, I think it's no different than anybody maybe in his business, but it's quite frustrating that the competition. We need competition, but we don't need competition from people which look like a reputable company, but are really a one-man shop somewhere in a garage.
Yeah.
And that over the last 10 years has been a big problem in our industry, which created a lot of difficulty and a lot of damage, which is bad for the name of the industry. That it's a big frustration that we're fighting against little companies, and everybody is allowed to make his money and is allowed to start a company. I have nothing against that, but I do have something against it if people take people's money up front and do not perform and let people hang out, go bust, start all over again. And it's very difficult to fight that for us. And we know exactly what happens in the market. So for a customer, it's impossible to know who everybody is.
Yeah, but I think that's an interesting topic, Richard. I think one of the things we look at very closely is actually how do you almost demonstrate the information that a client can do due diligence to choose suppliers within the marketplace. It's been a common problem for years where you could still have a paint applicator company out of a van traveling around Europe, and his marketing or his website makes him sound like a huge organization. It's a similar situation. Shipyards with maybe 5 employees but have lots of subcontractors. The responsibility is partly on the companies and the industry, but also on the client to do a lot more due diligence in terms of his advisory network. That to me is one of the part of the problems, is giving the client the right information to do proper due diligence, isn't it?
Yes, it is. The question: how is your information stream? How are we keeping each other informed about what's out there, and how can a customer find out?
Yeah.
Because you can say he needs to do his due diligence, but it's pretty damn difficult to actually do that.
Yeah, yeah.
And we don't want to be the ones who are always saying, well, you shouldn't deal with them, you shouldn't deal with them, you shouldn't deal with them. I mean, that's negative. That's a negative publicity actually for ourselves. We want to say, no, you should use us, we're the best. But it's sometimes people learn the hard way, and it's really not necessary.
Yeah, but I think it's part of a maturing of an industry though as well. If we start getting better information, more transparency, all these things we've talked about over the years, that our industry starts to grow up and we start to have better sources of insight, if you like, onto what is a good company, what is almost an unstable company, which is another part of the thing. The instability is something that is very, very dangerous in our market, because it can upset clients, and therefore we lose clients in the long run through them being burnt through a bad deal. So that's one key frustration. Anything else?
A short-term mind of people.
Yeah.
In general. I mean, if you sit on the couch tonight and you make a decision to go somewhere, I understand that it's a short-term deal. But many in the industry know half a year or longer in advance what the plans are, what they're going to do in the normal circumstance, shipyards included, with their production. I mean, it would help a lot, and it would save cost for everybody to, longer-term planning. But that's an ideal world.
I think
it's so easy.
It's another key topic, because obviously you can absolutely run a much smarter, more financially sound business and save the client money if the plan is more robust. Why do you think it's not happening?
I mean, let's say about 8 years ago, we booked, I think, double the amount in advance, let's say 2, 3, 4 months in advance, than what we're doing today. We're more and more last minute. And I think, coming back to the first point, it is mostly because of the competition. Because people hear stories, they get afraid, they don't want to give you any money up front. They don't want to sign any contracts because they're afraid they might lose their money and not getting the option of shipping with somebody else in need case. I think it has to do with each other. People are, the market has changed a lot by the number and quality of the yacht transporting companies. That is I think that's a big change, and it would help a lot if we go back to the old days, which sounds easy, because my life is a lot easier, but it actually is easier for the customer as well.
So okay, for the customer, what do we need to change for the customer from a yacht transport perspective? If you could have a blank piece of paper and say, okay, this is how we should build a better business landscape, what would you do?
I would probably, we have to set the playing field for those professionals in our industry which know in advance what they're doing, that we set a certain way of transportation where they can commit even a year in advance, still change dates or still change plans, maybe even giving them a credit for a next year in case things completely turn around, but that you work with each other far in advance to build certain voyages, to build certain destinations even, and giving them a discount when they do come early days. That is completely logical, especially on the more difficult routes, like the Seychelles, the Maldives, Western Australia, these sort of places. It helps a lot if you know months in advance who is out there, what they want to do. They, subject to charter or subject to the owner, willing to go. You can build business, and you can save each other a lot of money, a lot of freight by doing it at earlier days.
Understood. Interesting. So, as an industry today, all right, what's the current appetite across the boats around 40 to 60 meters for yacht transport? How's that looking at the moment?
Well, especially that market, it's mostly charter driven. So no charters, no transport generally. we have, of course, a very strong base of customers which are returning every year. Some of them are owners, so they will keep going always. We see an increase in the 50 to 60 meter at the moment. We're kind of hoping to increase also on the 60, 70 meter, because we're getting that sort of a capacity now as from next year, where we can accommodate that better even than we can today. Yeah, I would say tendency is that the market is shifting slowly from the 30 to 35, 40 meter now to 50, between 50 and 60 meter.
And that's driven by charter activity or by captains deciding that actually they're happy to go on transport rather than on their own bottom. I'm interested in terms of one of the things that's come up in various conversations is actually not wanting to do the sea time and actually enjoying the time off. Is that a key driver now?
Yeah, I think it's also fuel price driven.
Yeah.
With at the moment the fuel prices are not as high, so you'll see a little decline in that sector, which is going either on keel or on transport. But in general, I would think that the larger yachts now seem to see that the yacht transport option for them is actually paying off.
Yeah.
Either in crew time or in engine hours, fuel prices, etc. It took a long time because generally, historically, the smaller yachts, small talking 25 to 40 meters, they often couldn't even go on keel. So there was a kind of easy, and putting a lot of effort into explaining why it makes sense to ship a yacht which actually can go on keel. Yeah. And I think we're getting there, we're getting ground there under our feet, that even the larger yachts, not the 100 meters, but let's say up to 75 meters, we get more and more of these customers now.
Interesting. So I call this one-to-one, we have liftoff, because obviously, as you mentioned, there's a very big launch coming next year. Tell me about the Yacht Servant.
Yeah, we are in the middle of the build of, really a unique vessel. If you know something about shipping and in what we do on yacht transport, it's what you think is a unique vessel. For anybody else, it's probably just a vessel. But it certainly will change what we actually can offer to the market. She's not just larger than what we have now, but because she's larger, we're able to decrease the draft of the vessel, which means we can go into shallow ports and have a lot of water on deck still, being able to load 5-6 meter draft sail yachts in small Caribbean islands where there isn't as much draft normally. So yeah, it gives us more options for actually more customer focused service.
Yeah. Interesting. So in that on that basis, like sort of the project is delivering next summer or June next year, is that correct?
Coming end of May, beginning of June.
Yeah, okay. Is that one of a few ships in the future, or do you think the landscape's changing because of this attitude towards transport, and you think more will come on stream?
Well, the intention was to replace one vessel. She's old. The Super 74 is getting old and needs to be replaced. So we thought about a concept which we can use for the future. This is the first product of that. We are already thinking and engineering on a second vessel. Okay. But that one will be a vessel a little bit different in that case, and more direct into new markets, which ask different sort of a vessel. It would be really strange, in my opinion, if we do not run submersible vessels to Southeast Asia. within the next 10 years.
Yeah.
The way that market develops. So that's an interesting topic, but it needs a different person.
Yeah, I think what's interesting, Richard, is that, as I said at the very beginning, the Mediterranean, which is our pretty dominant cruising ground, is only 0.7 of the world's ocean. And I think if you look at how crowded places can get around Ibiza or Saint-Tropez or Porto Cervo, maybe the time has come for us to really get clients, even the new clients who've never bought a boat, to understand where they can really explore and not worry about that distance and problem of Australia or the Pacific, etc., because there are methodologies to get you there safely. And I feel this is one of the key elements of our industry is there are hundreds of thousands of people that can afford to buy a boat. But I wonder whether this sort of migration issue and the lack of understanding of what you can do with a boat becomes a barrier. So I'm hoping that this whole the yacht servant and the whole development of transport can almost showcase what we've got to a much broader marketplace. Asia being a massive marketplace potentially, and the Pacific again. That East Coast, West Coast, America topic you mentioned. The West Coast of America is very exciting. So it's an interesting future if we get it right, and I think we need to sort of focus on that.
Yeah, I agree. It's difficult for us. It's difficult to adapt to a market which is changing so slowly. Sometimes you say you take a risk, we'll do this, we'll do that, but and then something happens in Thailand or in Hong Kong, and then suddenly you think everything gets unstable again. Now we got to the point where I think even with everything what happened in Hong Kong over the last months, the unrests, we thought, okay, that means again another year backlog basically on the market development. But it's not. It only increased. You see more and more people buying boats or selling their boat, buying a bigger boat, ordering boats. Even the dealers on the factory boats, they sell more boats now. We got to the point that's not going to matter anymore. If they're not in Hong Kong, they will go to Batam or Singapore or Malaysia or Indonesia maybe, which is huge.
Yes.
And there's hardly any marinas. There's still so much to do and discover.
Yeah. No, I think it's very interesting. I was talking to the guys from Camper Nicholson's in Hong Kong, and they were explaining that the COVID impact actually drove people to go to sea and actually get away from land. So I think we've got to almost not capitalize on it, but we've got to make sure people understand the value proposition and how much fun you can have. And as you said, Indonesia, 17,000 islands, unlimited cruising. So it's an exciting part of the world. I feel that Asia will be very much in favor of the transportation model because it's not always the easiest cruising ground. It's just getting it from A to B.
Yeah, I agree. And it's obvious that people will, first you have the explorers which go out there. They go anywhere.
Yeah.
And then you get the charters. Because it's easy, people don't take risks. They just take a charter for a week or two, and now slowly, I think we're getting to the point where people will actually move their boat in that direction to enjoy it for a year or two or a season and move back. That would be the next step because so far it has been explorers and charter yachts.
Yeah.
But I think we'll see migration now as well, more common with Asia.
Yeah. What about the Pacific as a sort of ultimate playground? How's that moving for you?
It definitely increased over the last 6 months. Really COVID driven again. People wanna get out. They couldn't finish their plans, so they need to move back to the US or to Europe. So in that respect, definitely more action. If you look longer term, I think New Zealand and Australia have great potential. If we're looking at the South Pacific Islands, I mean, it's paradise. They're always going to be there. There's always going to be yachting, but it's really far away. So I have no huge hopes for an increase there on activity. I mean, we do our annual sailings where we bring small and big boats. That continues, but I don't see big number increases there.
Yeah. Okay. And also, in some ways, it's probably good for the islands not to have huge increase of fleet into the area.
Yeah, it will definitely take away the appeal of the islands, I think, if it gets too busy.
Yeah.
I mean, what you do see a little bit is more action around Panama area on the west coast. We see more inquiries, but no actual shipments into the let's say Ecuador, Peru side. But it's definitely more than it ever have been. We're not really shipping. People are exploring new places.
Yeah.
Brazil is another place. There's always people wanting to go to Brazil, but local government makes it so difficult to get in on the vessel that it's sporadic shipments only.
Yeah, sure. So, in terms of, let's say, yacht transportation and the future business model of our industry, from your perspective, what is it that you think the market doesn't still understand about that sector of the market? Is there anything that you think needs clarifying from your perspective to educate managers or owners or captains? What's missing in terms of knowledge?
I think anybody who considers transportation should not look first at what it costs. You should first look at, do you need it and what's it worth to you? Of course, everybody's free to get his prices in and compare, but have a look at how long does a company exist? How many people do they have working for them? Do they actually own anything more than a typewriter? I mean, have they their own materials and engineering? I mean, experience counts here. I mean, 25 years ago, we were also, just starting, but we were already a ship owner. So we had hardware and we had knowledge and we had a whole setup already, even at that time. Where we are now is a little different, but this industry is really based on knowledge and experience. Yeah. If you see how development on our lifting gear and our cradling, how that still continues and get changed over time, we're still engineering on changing our stance and doing this and doing that. So that never stops, but you need to have the resources to actually invest in your business. Yeah. We're not building a vessel if we wouldn't trust that we would be around in 30 years. No, we are going to be around in 30 years. And we will be a lot better even in 30 years than we are today, because experience counts.
Yeah. Can I just talk about things like accidents and incidents? In terms of what's happened in the past few years, are people nervous, or are people still thinking about what's happened with things like My Song, etc.? Or does that change the landscape at all, or has that improved safety?
It hasn't improved safety for us.
Okay.
But we look at every little accident we have or the competition have and see what we can learn from it. Definitely.
Yeah.
I think the smart owners look at it. Who am I using, and what are they using for materials? Yeah. Am I coming on my own cradle, and is that cradle actually suitable? Yeah. I don't see that people are getting nervous, but I do see that they sometimes hire third parties as a surveyor, or their insurance is asking for a surveyor to do checks on what we're actually doing, which is perfectly fine.
Yeah,
I mean, it's a lot of money we take in our hands, and we lift or we ship, and they're perfectly right, being sure we do the right thing.
Yeah. Yeah. So in terms of the future, what is your expectation? What are you thinking about the long-term future? You said 10 years you'll have Asia. So what's
if you look at what boats or what yachts are still building today, and that we're really not scrapping that many boats, I mean, what will happen to yacht transport? I mean, it will only get bigger, but it will only get bigger to the different destinations, because the most common destinations are getting too crowded. So I think that's what we will see. It will keep on growing. It will not be like 15 years ago, where we actually developed a market for yacht transportation. I mean, the market isn't kind of developed at the moment. So now it's growth, where we're looking for is only because of
yeah.
Yeah, sorry. It is growth because there's more boats.
Yeah, yeah.
And so no big jumps. I don't expect big jumps anymore. I think it's going to be 5% down, 10% down, 3% up. But overall it's going up. And I do see definitely. I think we will ship. I will not give a percentage, but I think a big part of what we will ship in 10 years is over 40 meters.
Yeah, yeah.
And when we started 25 years ago, a big boat was 25 meters. So, I mean, and that will continue.
Yeah, another topic, Richard. I'm a big passionate person about sustainability. What do you think is happening there from your perspective? Because that's a key part of the whole conversation as well.
Well, of course there is regulations. There's IMO regulations for us on fuel. We are. I think we are the most prepared yacht transporting company, at least in the world, for that, and even in shipping in general. As a group, we decided many years ago already to install what they call exhaust scrubbers, washing machines basically for the exhaust gases, which take the sulfur out, which take particles out, which we are cleaner actually burning heavy fuel than a normal diesel engine is, which is much lighter fuel, but so we are definitely cleaner for the environment than anybody else on diesel. So I think that's a big step. There's definitely there's other measures coming. There is a water ballast treatment system nowadays, which is making sure not polluting the sea with seawater from anywhere else in the world. I think it's maybe there's no spotlight on that anywhere, but I think it's a big thing. Because what we see in COVID now, we could see in the sea as well one day. That some species are dying because we have brought in other species from elsewhere, and it's only a good thing that we keep things where they are. So that's the environmental part of it, and then you could still look at, okay, but what does actually shipping mean to the footprint? And if you ship 30 boats at the same time, we'll come out with a little study on that soon. But it's a whole lot cleaner for Mother Earth than going on your own bottom all across.
Agreed.
That, although it's just our business model, but it is actually a fact that shipping is cleaner than going on your own.
Okay.
So we give it quite a bit of attention and investment.
Okay. On a personal note, Richard, sailboats or motor yachts, which do you prefer?
Sailboats.
Okay, so
100%.
I'm 100% with you. I think sailboats are the perfect way of living on the water. What's your personal opinion on why the sailboat industry and super yachting has declined so much? Because it was a wonderful era of building some amazing Housemans and Vitters and Holland Yacht Bar in their day and Perinis and all this stuff, and then obviously the New Zealand side. It's fallen off a cliff. So what's your personal view on that? It's a shame.
Yeah, but if you build a sailboat too large, you could wonder if it's still a sailboat. I mean, it sails, but it's not the same feel. Inside, it's a super yacht. So when we were building sail yachts of Huisman and Vitters in the 30 meters, 35 meters, they were still sailboats. If you start to build 60 meters, you can wonder if you're building a super yacht with sails. It's not a sailboat. So I think that it's a different customer. And what we see, how the market has increased in super yachting, you are not nautical people born on a port or had a father with a boat or anything like that. People who are live and work or grown up around water from, those are generally people interested in sailing. But what we see in general over the last 10, 20 years is there is a new generation which made their money in a different way, come from a city, and they buy a house, they buy a car, they buy a boat, and it's a different article. It's something to have. It's not something to dream of or to live. It's something completely different for them. It doesn't have the same emotion.
Yeah. Interesting.
I think anybody which started to learn to sail as a kid and gets into a position later in life to buy a big boat might consider a sailboat.
Yeah. Okay, and one more point I want to make about, because we're now in September. We're normally going to boat shows over the next 2 or 3 months. Do you think this will change the landscape completely in terms of the boat show model, from your perspective?
I hope.
In what way?
I doubt, but I hope. Because we're all opportunists. And in the end, we need to do our business. And if the show is there, we cannot afford not to go. But we all know how we have been treated over the years. And we all want something different.
So what would you want?
Yes. We're all owners. One company here, one company there. And we're only changing if we all say we need to change it.
Yeah. I
think it got unhealthy in a number of shows and the way the shows were organized, and also the way as an exhibitor how you were treated. And I think that deserves a different approach, and there is a big opportunity there for those who see that and are willing to organize it in a different way. But I'm afraid that we just continue, because that's the nature of the beast.
All right. Well, fingers crossed, Richard. We can make some changes across the market in the next few years. I agree with you. I think there are too many shows, and sometimes they're not delivering enough value. So it is time for change. So anything else you want to add to this conversation, Richard, from your perspective?
No, I think it's great to do this, and it gives opportunity to give a little bit of insight, but also, by watching these one-to-ones, it gives a little bit of feedback of the market, because we're missing each other, not just on the show, but not to forget in the bar, where we actually hear the stories we need to hear. I think we all struggle with that, and I'm thankful that you're doing your best to try to give and keep more inside of the market. So that's
okay. Well, Richard, thanks a million for your time. I just realised that my little slogan up here behind me is perfect for Sevenstar DYT.
Yeah, keep calm, carry on, and book your DYT time.
Exactly. All right, Richard, thanks a million. Enjoy the rest of your week.
Thank you very much, Martin.
All right,
Take care.
take care.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.